This is the best experience. And you know what? Nick Best, one of the strongest men in the world, TV show, masters, power lifter. This guy, you know, you're on the show, you're listening to the show because you know who you're talking to and you want to get some informative information. And that's what I love about Nick, because God damn it, after last week's episode, I'm pretty much, he just called it as it is for the Arnold.
Yeah, that was pretty good predictions, I guess. I mean, knowing what the guys are good at and knowing what the events are and how they should perform, and pretty much everybody did what they were expected to do. The weaknesses of the guys turned out to be exactly that. And the guy that performed the most stable throughout the whole show won. So, you know, the guy I predicted at the end for winning was Hooper, and he did exactly that, but he did not win one event. He's the first person to ever win the Arnold without winning a single event.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, he got 2 seconds and 3/3, and that was enough. But in the Arnold, if you have a bad event that drops you down to 7th, 8th, 9th, you're just not going to come back with that. There's not that many guys in the contest, and the points to be had, you can't fall like that. And the most consistent guy ended up winning. The question for him was how is he going to handle that stone put? And he got third in that event, and he did exactly what he needed to do. He figured it out on the fly and won, and more power to him. But, you know, you get into the first event, and it's the Conan's wheel, or the Wheel of Pain. Yeah. But it's a Conan's wheel. It's based on the movie Conan and that wheel that he was actually Arnold was pushing in the movie. So,
which is a great replica too. It's amazing looking.
It's unbelievable. Which I don't know why they just didn't call it the Conan's wheel instead of Wheel of Pain. I mean,
maybe it's a rights thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but Jim Lorimer owns Lorimer Studios, and you got Arnold right there. I think anybody who you would need to give the okay to call it the Conan's wheel are sitting right there. But hey, whatever. I'm not the guy who runs everything, and
just making a suggestion.
I would just call it the Conan's wheel, but yeah, the Wheel of Pain. So I mean, I knew Mateus was going to excel at that event. He's done it before,
which he did. That was pretty impressive.
Yeah, he killed it. And then the cool part is Trey got after it too. Trey got second in that, which I expected. Trey's a big dude, strong legs.
Mass moves mass.
Yep, and he also did great pushing the train at World's Strongest Man a few years back. So I knew that was going to be a good event for him. And then he even figured out how to get the motion from the sand in those wheels, because you don't know this because they don't tell people enough. But the wheels are full of sand. So that sand's completely rolling around and moving in there, which is just what makes it so torturous, because not only are you pushing something that's very heavy, now you're pushing on something that's slopping side to side and speeding up and slowing down as you're going. So getting into that really good, stable rhythm is very difficult to do when you're pushing something like that. And then, of course, Mitch Hooper gets third. And he got great points on that. That's what he needed to do. And that made a really good impact and overall based on his performance. So, and then, Bobby Thompson was right there and a couple of the other guys, and Bobby did a phenomenal job. He got third last year. He got third again this year. And we'll get to the other events in a minute, but I mean, Bobby even performed unbelievably well. I mean, he did great, but weakness kind of got him on a couple of the events, and he's going to keep progressing. He's going to be scary. Him and Trey are just going to be outrageous.
Oh yeah. But the more they start lining up these events, the more they start actually pinpointing I need to work on this. And when they start doing that, oh my God.
Yeah. But there's certain things you can work on and improve, but you're only going to improve them so much. Like, for instance, my weakness is overhead. And I've worked really hard and tried to do everything I can to improve it. But for whatever reason, it's just going to be one of those things, no matter how hard I work or how much I do, I'm always going to struggle with it. There's been a time where I've bench pressed 635, but overhead pressing is just not my thing, but that's okay. But when you have a bad grip, you can do things to train it, but it still comes down to like your hand and the way it's built and size and strength. That's a weakness that really takes a lot of unbelievable work to overcome. So, but we'll get into that. That's further down the road.
Oh yeah.
Next event was the log, and Trey Mitchell smoked that thing. He got 4 reps on it, and each rep looked easier than the last one.
Yeah, it was crazy because the progression was just like, I was like, okay, all of a sudden, he's got it down pat.
Yeah, and it just looks so easy for him. I just wonder what he's really going to be able to do in the future. And then, of course, Bobby Thompson killed it, and then so did Mitchell Hooper. And for them to get 3 reps on that thing was just unbelievable. I mean, I guess Hoop was talking like right before his 3rd one. It tells Magnus, this one's for you, which is pretty funny when you think about it, and actually really cool. And then picks it up and does it. It's just the guy's unbelievable. And the frightening thing is how smart he is. I mean, literally, he is one of the most intelligent strongmen you ever run into. And people will take that as kind of arrogance, but he knows his stuff inside and out, and don't take it as that. And the way he approaches winning things and stuff like that, he doesn't over-celebrate them. I guess he goes back and reflects on it later, but like in the movement, it's like, okay, I just won A, now it's going to get me to B, and then it's going to get me to C, and then it's going to get me to D, and he keeps moving forwards. So winning the Arnold's a big deal to him, but it's still another progression for him to go, as he's winning, he wants to win the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And he's
that's
going
the thing about being methodical. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
yeah.
I need this, and it's in layers, but you don't get to like for him, he doesn't get to celebrate till either after the event or until he's reached that pinnacle of what he's done to be like, oh my God, I really did all this. And that's what's crazy about it. Right.
So it's going to be kind of amazing. People shouldn't take kind of the way he answered some of those questions at the end of the Arnold the wrong way, which could be easily taken that way. It was extremely and is extremely important to him that he won that. So, hats off to him. But again, gets 2nd place in this event, ends up 2nd place after 2 events, and he's about 2.5 points behind Trey. He knows what Trey's weaknesses are. And so he's preparing and trying to stay as close as he can to Trey, and then get ahead of Mateus as far as he can, because he knows at the end of the show, that's where Mateus' strength is. But Mateus' weakness is the deadlift. Mm-hmm. So he knows he's going to have points there. So, Trey was in first at 19 points. Hoop was at 16.5, and Mateus was at 14.5. Pablo was at 11, was in a good spot, but Pablo made mistakes.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the next event, which would be the deadlift. The deadlift was just unreal. I mean, the way the guys took things, I guess, to understand, Hoop went and was trying to stay over whatever Trey did. And he did. And then you got Kearney coming up and pulling 961 that got in between and gave him more of a point spread and more of a point lead over, Trey, and helping him build that cushion. And then also getting in there between him and Mateus. I mean, everybody that got in there was adding points and adding room, so that if he did make a mistake, he could easily come back from it, which he did not. He ended up pulling 981. And then, of course, Bobby Thompson comes up with the event win, pulling 986.
Smooth, too.
Smooth. Yeah, real smooth. So it was a really neat event to watch. The way that bar gives, you really got to practice with that bar and really learn how to pull on it. But you got to kind of go back and forth. One week you need to pull with the stiff bar. The next week you need to pull with a soft bar. The stiff bar is going to help your lockout. It will also help your position at the bottom when you pull off the ground. And the soft bar will help, put you in a way better position when you pull out the floor and allow you to do more weight. So the combination of the two will really help in training for this event. But it's a slow pull. You can't pull it fast. If you pull it fast, it's going to whip all over the place. You'll end up stumbling and falling down. So, but it was a neat event to watch. I like how they stack the plates out there so far, and they're kind of like chrome, and it's an amazing looking event, and it's fun. It's a brute strength event. Everybody's techniques on point, on par. You don't see anybody doing anything foolish. So it's a really, really fun event to watch.
Yeah, the stage that they were performing on, I was very it was the best looking Arnold Classic stage I've seen so far, where it's like very dramatic on each event that they were pulling.
Oh yeah, yeah. And the way they had the stands in there and the way they had the audience back there, it was every bit as cool as the old Arnolds, maybe even cooler, because they're all there just for you. They're not there going to the expo and then turning and watching. They're all there watching, and it's compact in that room, and it's pretty amazing to see. Which comes to the next event, which was the Stein-Tossen, I hope I said that right, stone throw, which for all intents and purposes, do the Highland Games. It's like what they call the idiot stone. I mean, just a big, heavy stone that you pick up over your head, take a run up and throw it as far as you can. It's the same event.
But it was great to watch. Like I said, it's an awkward event, but man, it looked cool to see, because even the still pictures they took from it looked pretty damn good. You know what I'm saying? They even did a couple of slow-mos that I saw. I was like, yeah. But it just seems so awkward.
Yeah, it is. If you haven't done the Highland Games or a lot of throwing events and you don't know how to train for that, it's going to be pretty awkward. It was just amazing to watch Mateus do that. I mean, he just sent that thing flying.
It set a record, I believe.
Yeah, he did. And he's tall, so that helps. And then he's athletic, which also helps. And then he was putting it pretty good. I mean, he was coming off there. And you see some of the guys change their techniques that they're going to where they actually started setting the stone on their head and then getting a run up and then putting it off. What you didn't see were a lot of guys exploding up into the air with it, like you would like a shot put.
Yeah.
To get it height as they were moving with the speed. I'm fairly sure if they put that event in next year, you'll see guys actually train this. And I would guess we'll see probably another 2 feet onto what the distances were this year if they practice it and this comes back.
Yeah.
Because the guys will have a much better idea of what technique suits them the best as they're going to throw it. But this event also turned out very similar to what I thought. I knew Tom Evans was going to be really athletic for throwing, and he played football and did a lot of other stuff. And boy, did he ever. I mean,
second place.
Second place. He threw that thing 10 feet 7, where Mateus threw it 11 feet 4.5 inches. So, and then of course there's who?
Yeah.
10 feet 5 inches. He did what he needed to do to get into the top 3 on a weird, awkward event.
That's it.
And he absolutely killed it. So going into that, he had a pretty good lead. I mean, he was 4 points ahead of Trey, and he was 6 points ahead of Mateus, going into the last event, which is the frame carry, and the frame's 880 pounds. That thing's no joke. And you're going up a ramp, which these guys actually have it kind of nice because we just had the backstop. We did it back in the day. We didn't have any rails on the side.
No safety protections.
No, you went to the left, you went to the right. You're going over the edge. So now they have the rails on there that follow it all the way up and gives you another layer of safety, which I think is actually really cool, because then that little thought that ends up in your head, like, I don't want to trip and lose my balance with this thing and go left or right with it, never comes into your head. You can't, it's not going to get there. So that's really cool. And then you see the guys who, struggled with the grip. The grip on it's an issue. Those guys are going to have to work. I think all the guys, if they had straps on, would have smoked that thing. But grip is an event that you should train. It should be a strongman thing. You shouldn't do that frame with straps. So it's pretty neat. And then, for Kevin Ferris to get up there first guy up, and to still be sitting in first place as Mateos goes, there was only 3 guys that finished it, and Kevin put up a good time. I mean, it looked like he stumbled a little bit and like going up the ramp. And it can be really confusing when you go from that flat surface to the incline going up. And I mean, I kind of figured it out when I was doing it that I wore my Olympic lifting shoes because they got the raised heels. So it was up. So as I'm going up the frame, I get a little kick out of it and my feet get straighter and flatter, which allowed me to drive faster when I went up there. And I mean, I did the 1,050 in 11 seconds. So that's not bad. I had the record till Brian went last.
But that's another day, another time.
But then the next year they went to 1,100 and new record got set. But anyway, I really think those Olympic shoes made a big difference on going up that ramp. But it also, because the plating in those shoes are like a hard wood, when you step on the crack, if you accidentally step on the crack, your foot's not going to collapse into them and you won't shake and rock and you won't drop. A lot of the guys, when they took off, struggled with that little bit getting up, and you saw a lot of people dropping it right at that transition.
Yeah, I remember you saying something about watching your steps when you start, because the step transition changes.
First 3 are medium fast, and then once you hit the incline, then you turn the gas on. You do not want to start that event super fast. You want to start it at a good pace and then accelerate. Once you hit the incline and get both feet on an incline, then you just hit the gas and power your way up the ramp. But and then Mateus just absolutely killed it.
Yeah.
I mean, he just picked it up and whoop, looked like he was on rocket fuel. Just ding, done. And so that was pretty neat to watch and see, and what a great comeback he had from tearing his Trays Major and stuff like that off, and rehabbing and coming back, and his tricep and getting that fixed and everything else. I mean, it's been a long haul for him to get back, and it's really amazing, and it's great to see him back because he's good for the sport. Yeah. And it's going to make things pretty darn challenging. It'll be fun to watch.
Hell yeah.
And then we get down to Trey was just heartbreaking. I mean, it was utterly and completely heartbreaking because he's sitting there in a position where he could make the top 3 or he could actually even win. And he just couldn't budge the frame. His grip just failed him, and he slid it a little bit, but it really didn't move. And I feel bad for him, but I know he's working on it. He's going to get everything he's got. I mean, the guy is just a freaky strong, great competitor, and he'll eventually figure it out. And then up comes Hoop.
Yeah. And
Hoop takes off and picks that thing up and just starts flying up the ramp and stumbles, and then just yanks it off the ground like it's nothing and goes flying back up the ramp and then stumbles again and then finishes. So, I mean, he had a really fast time. He might have actually been able to beat Mateus on this, but, we'll never know because he dropped it. But he still finished in a good spot. He finished 3rd in that event, and that's all he needed to win. He just needed to make sure. And, Mateus needed to pick up 6 points. He picked up 2. He wins by 4 points, which is a pretty good lead in that contest, because I remember seeing Z and Brian fighting with each other for a point. So for him to win by 4, that's a pretty dominant finish, and it was good to see him win.
Yeah, and, a fresh blood, because it wasn't even that long ago we saw him at last year's Worlds.
Yeah,
and we were like, "Who the hell is this guy?" And just nailing events. It was just the most craziest thing. And then even conversations that we had with him and before and after the Worlds, it's just the progression that this guy has made, because he literally said he's got so many events this year, and he's been placing. He's been hitting the podium and winning.
winning. Not just placing, he's been winning big shows.
That's
it.
I
mean, to win the Arnold, that's pretty
big
solid.
Feather in the cap. Yeah,
that's huge. There's only been so many winners at that, and that's probably that's the hardest contest to get into. When they go at old style, kind of how they picked the guys this year.
Yeah,
that's the hardest contest to get into. So it's pretty neat when you can come out of a show like that. It'll be interesting next year to see how it goes when Novikov comes back and Martins comes back.
Mm-hmm.
It's just going to get more exciting as it goes on, which is going to be great for the sport.
Big time.
Because I mean, when you have 4 or 5 or even 6 guys that can come in and win on any given day, that's fun to watch. Not just if the events are right, but like whatever the events are, they're going to perform that good on them. And those 3-4 guys are like that. They can do anything on any given day. Brian's like that. I mean, I have rarely seen any contest set up in a good way where they're all Brian's great events.
Yeah.
And he still won no matter what, which is super impressive.
It's the evolution, because like before, I'm not saying way before, but like a lot of times everyone was very depending on their strength to carry them through the strongman. But now it's like, no, people are being like thorough on how I'm training, what I'm doing, and how I'm setting myself up, because I need to think about how to win and not just try to win,
Yeah. And I mean, by the time Hoop's all done, I mean, for him to stay in one piece this long, for the size of the contest that he's going to and the effort that he's putting in, that's pretty amazing, because a lot of guys hit the big show and they make a splash and then they get invited to all these contests and they do them all and then they do great to a point and then they start breaking. Hoop's already past that point.
Yep.
So if he can get through this next year in one piece, whatever that guy says, we need to sit down and listen to constantly and take very seriously, because he knows something that a lot of people don't about keeping the body together and the way to train and rest in between your training and the things that he does for recovery, that we could all learn an awful lot from. So it's going to be fun to watch. It really is. Oh yeah.
It's definitely going to be fun to watch. It's been insane this whole weekend. You know what I'm saying? Just trying to keep up with the Arnold, trying to make sure to see what's going on, watching the updates, and just it's been an amazing weekend. And that's the thing though too, is like it was so exciting because there was all these different placings for every single event. It just wasn't dominated by one person. So it's like that back and forth chase of the points was just one of the best Arnolds in a while that I've seen, where it's just like, who is going to take this? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep. And that's what's so exciting about it, because I mean, it gets kind of boring when there's only 1 or 2 guys that can. There's like a level, and then there's the really good guys, and then there's everybody else. Now it's kind of like there's like 4 or 5 guys in this top area, maybe 6, and then there's 10 or 15 guys in this area where there used to be like 5.
Yeah.
And then down towards the bottom part of it, there's still a boatload of guys that are just that good now. So it's neat to see the sport grow and progress and the guys get that much better. So it's going to be fun now watching, because World's Strongest Man is like 5 weeks away.
Yeah.
And I want to do predictions and stuff like that on that, but you can't do any prediction. We know what the events are and we know who's invited, but until you see who gets put in the heats, there's no way to predict or commentate on who's going to go where, because you don't know who's going to make it to the heat.
Yep.
I mean, if they put Brian and Hooper and and Bobby Thompson and
Trey Mitchell all in one heat.
In one heat. Yeah, only half those guys are going to make it to the. Only 2 are going to make it through the heat and to the finals. So that it makes it very difficult to tell who's going to do what. And like last year, Brian's heat was that way. So it was. He had Hooper and Thompson in his heat, and it was
all 1,000-pound lifters.
Yeah, it was crazy, but it'll be fun to watch what happens at Worlds now in a few weeks. So
that's it.
As soon as they announce who's in the heats, you can kind of take a look at the events and look at the guys, and then kind of look at the guys coming in. Pablo, I would love to see make a big splash, but I don't know how you're going to heal up from a leg injury in 5 weeks to perform at your best.
Yeah, at the top level.
He can come in and do some damage. He might even make it to the finals, but because you got 6 events in the qualifying heats and then 6 events in the finals.
Yeah.
And it's all over 4 days.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's not going to be any time to recover. It's going to be brutal on the body.
Yes, it's going to be very difficult on the body. And I guess the guys who come in pretty much in the best lifting shape are going to be the ones that, make it to the top of the, make it through the heats and into the finals. And in the finals, the guys who have the most left at the end are going to be the guys that win. You got to figure all the guys who make it second place into the finals from their heats, because they usually do the stone over bar back and forth, the last man standing stone. They're going to be at a serious disadvantage in the finals.
That's a heavy stone.
Because it's a heavy stone. And well, not only that, you're not just doing one. You do like 5 or 6 stones going across, and then the last stone you go back and forth till somebody can't do it. And the amount that takes out of the competitor, it's such a massive advantage now to win your heat at Worlds and go into it. I would like to see. I kind of miss the old school style where everybody still had to do the last event, and that way, even first place when they get to the finals, even though they could take it easy, because some guys. The biggest complaint was it didn't make interesting TV, because the guy was in first by 4 points. He just sees where he needs to beats those guys, and then leaves, and then second, third, and fourth are fighting. But there's been a lot of times where the guy in fourth ends up in second and goes through.
Yeah.
And there's been a few times since they've gone to this format where the guy in fourth was a half a point or 1 point behind, still had a shot at getting in, didn't even get a chance.
Yeah.
So I kind of miss that old style. Plus, it takes the massive advantage away from winning the heat. You still had to go do some stones. You couldn't just not do them.
Nah, not do them. And like I said, it almost makes it not even, but just enough to where that person had to put just as much effort as the person that's still fighting to get in.
Yeah, they had to do something. I mean, like my first year, Sadruna said the heat pretty much won, and Laws and I were tied. And I think Sadrunas had to do 1 or 2 kegs, and he won the heat. And then Laws and I just had to go all out to get through it. And we did. And I got my 3 kegs up faster than Laws did that year. Sorry.
It goes like that. It goes like that.
But I mean, we were pretty gassed from that, but Z still had to go do something. He just didn't get an automatic pass on the last event.
Yeah.
Now, I also have been the recipient of winning the heat and not having to do stone over bar.
Yeah. So it's a double-edged sword. I understand.
It's a double-edged sword. But, I still kind of like the old way where everybody had to do the last event. But, my opinion doesn't matter very much in the end.
Well, let me tell you right now, Nick, you nailed the Arnold right off top. So you hit it. It was pretty funny because he even texted me. I was like, did you see? I'm like, yeah, you were pretty spot on. So I was like, okay, Nick, okay, yeah. That's why I trust what you say.
Yeah. So if you were actually able to bet on this,
DraftKings, you heard it from us first.
I could be the guy that sets your money line for you.
That's it.
So,
this was a great episode because we recovered. We talked about it. We Hooper was an amazing win, and for the Arnold Classic for Arnold Schwarzenegger, you hearing us, I'm gonna pass this on to him. Bring in Nick for commentation. All right, bring in Nick for judging, because guess what? He is a pro, world's strongest man. For everyone listening, reach out, let them know that guess what? Let's bring Nick into the fold, because guess what? His knowledge is insane of this sport. You want to talk about someone who could be a historian for Strongest Man. That is Nick. And I enjoy the
Thank
stories.
you.
I enjoy hearing all the talk. And guess what? You get to enjoy this podcast with Nick. You know what I'm saying? So, Nick, hit us with those famous words so we can get out of here.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Like, share, and subscribe. And train hard, train smart, and be the best you can be.